Hi everyone, my name is Naomi Manning
And my name's Sophie.
and we're both learning producers here at Sydney Living Museums, and today we're here to do this show for you, Life in the Past Stinks. But, and in fact, you can see there's nearly 500 people who have logged in, so over 408 schools registered to come today, and that's over 15,000 students, so welcome all of you. And we love to see that nearly half of you are from rural and remote schools, so I'm so glad you could come to see this today. Now, before we start our program about Life in the Past Stinks, we would like to respect and acknowledge that, of course, where we are today in Sydney is on Gadi land. And we also want to extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students and teachers who are watching today. Welcome.
So today we're coming to you live from Susannah Place Museum, right in the heart of Sydney. Now this is just one historic place and museum that Sydney Living Museums cares for. And Naomi and I, we really love learning about the past and learning about history. And we're going to be exploring 3 different places today as part of the launch of a new digital resource for young historians like yourself who want to learn about the past. We'll be exploring this place in more depth, Susannah Place Museum. We'll also explore Rouse Hill Estate, which you can see up on your screen now. And finally, we'll visit Vaucluse House with that beautiful fountain out the front.
Now, today, all these places are museums, but in the past, they were places where people lived and worked. And today, you're going to meet 3 different people at different places. You're going to meet a hardworking mum at Susannah Place. You're going to meet a farm worker at Rouse Hill Estate, and you're going to go to Vaucluse House to see some of the jobs that the servants did then. And today, of course, we are crossing with you via Zoom, and this is a webinar, so that means we can't see you and your class, but you can still interact with Sophie and I in lots of different ways. You can put your digital hands up by clicking on the reaction button down the bottom. They can put things in the Q&A, and I can see Maroubra Public School and Baronier Bay Public School and lots of other schools are saying hello there, Rutherford Park Public School. That's fantastic, and if you have questions you can type them in the Q&A, and Sophie and I will try to answer some of your questions at the end. We've also got lots of questions that came in via email, so thank you boys and girls for the wonderful questions that you sent us. We'll answer them some at the end.
Now, I wonder if any of you have visited some of our museums before. Let's use our digital hands. So put your hand up if you have been to Susannah Place Museum, or maybe Vaucluse House, or maybe Rouse Hill Estate. Let's have a look and see if anyone's hands are going up. I can see lots of hands shooting up.
Nearly 100 hands already.
That's really, really great for us to see. Now, we know that life in the past was quite different to how it is today, but some things are still the same as well. What we're going to focus on in today's virtual experience is really about some of the yuckier, smellier, stinky jobs that people had to do in the past and what those jobs were like for those different people.
Sophie and my friend Ed is going to go to each of these properties and do some of the smelliest jobs. The first property Ed's going to go to is Susannah Place, where Sophie and I are today. But before he goes and sees how a hard-working mum did the washing at Susannah Place, we want you to think about how you do the washing at home. And I want you to answer this poll as a class. So have a look at this poll. This is the question you're answering. You're telling us about the washing. Have a look at this poll. It should come up on your screen now.
It'll be up very soon. A bit of a lag at the moment, I think.
Here's the poll. Excellent. Now, the question in the poll is about laundry, and the question is, what does your family use today to wash and dry your clothes? Now, you might choose all these things or some of these things as a class. You could vote by putting your hands up. Do you use an electric washing machine at home? Do you use a clothes dryer? Do you wash things by hand? Do you you have a clothesline outside in the sun? Put up your hands and vote in this poll about what you do today with the laundry.
I'm looking forward to seeing the answers come through in a moment.
Me too.
Our moderator will share this with us really soon. I wonder...
Ooh,
okay.
Yeah.
So lots of you are doing most of those things.
But not as many people are washing by hand anymore.
Not many by hand. Very interesting.
I think it's time to cross to Ed, back in the past. And Ed is actually... But before, actually, it's not time. I'm wrong, aren't I? Sophie, you were going to tell them a bit about the washing first,
I do have one really special thing to show you before our video. Because sometimes we can look at artworks and sources to find out about the past. So before we go and see it happening live, take a look at this painting. Let's bring it up on your screen now. Here's a painting called Woman at a Wash Tub. And it was painted in 1918, so over 100 years ago, by an artist called Nils Gren. Today, it's in the collection of the Art Gallery of New South Wales. Now, paintings are a really great way for us to learn about the past because they contain lots of clues that show us information about the past. So if we look carefully at that painting, we can see someone standing in an outdoor laundry doing the washing at a wash tub. Now we've got a really similar outdoor laundry right here at Susannah Place that we're going to go and see now, and our friend Ed is going to be there showing us how the washing worked. And while you watch Ed doing that washing, keep your eyes peeled for this mystery object. If you're looking carefully, you might see it when we go out to that laundry, and we'll talk about this a little bit later on.
All right, I think it's time to cross to Ed at Susannah Place, and he is with Anna Kosu, the curator at Susannah Place Museum. Let's go.
Susannah Place is a terrace of 4 houses, and it was built by Irish immigrants in 1844. There's number 58, number 60, 62 and number 64, which was once a corner store. Set against a backdrop of a busy harbour and a bustling modern city, Susannah Place is the only remaining example of an 1840s working class terrace in this area. Today, the building, photography and oral history helps us to understand what life was like for many of the people who once lived here.
So for almost 150 years, that's until the 1990s, these homes were lived in by about 100 different families. Now let's go and meet Anna at number 58, who can tell us a little bit more about what life was like here in the 1920s. Now, Susannah Place is my favourite museum, and we are out the back of number 58, and that's where the Hughes family used to live, isn't it?
That's right. So it was a family of 6.
6. Okay.
There was Mum, Lena Pearl,
Yep.
Dad, Thomas, and 4 children.
4 children.
Charlie, Fred, Bertha, and the youngest, Iris.
And who was working out here? Was it Mum?
Definitely Mum was working out here.
Okay, and what kind of jobs was she doing?
Lots of little jobs, but the biggest job she was doing was washing the clothes.
All right, and unlike today, where washing the clothes is really simple, there were a lot of steps to wash the clothes in the past, weren't there?
Lots of steps, Ed, that's
Yeah.
right. And you needed to use your muscle. Now I've got a basket of washing here.
I thought you might say something like
and
this.
an apron. And let's get you to work.
Time to roll my sleeves up.
Absolutely. So Ed, you need to wear a washing. You need to wear an apron because you need to keep clean.
Okay, so I'm rolling my sleeves up. The first job, what's the first job?
So the first step, Ed, is that you need to fill up the copper
Okay,
with cold water.
so I've got a bucket in here. I'm going to fill up the copper and let that fill up. Oh, it's very cold. All right, oh, it's quite heavy. Okay, now I'll put that down out of the way. Get my washboard ready for another step later on. Now that would have been, there's a fire under here that needs to be lit, so that will be bubbling away, getting nice and warm. While that's getting warm, what do I need to do?
Yep, so the first thing you need to do is actually sort your clothes.
Okay, so we still have to sort our clothes today, don't we? Getting the colours separated. All these are they're all white, so I might do them later. I might start with this dress. Now the collar looks a bit dirty.
Yep.
So I'm going to need to scrub that, aren't I?
Yep. So you've got your washboard there, Ed. So you
Got
need
the
just
washboard. Do I need to put a bit of water?
bit of water
Bit of water on here.
and a lot of muscle.
All right. So just on the soap.
Yep.
Like this. And oh, this is quite hard work.
How's that looking, Ed?
I think that's looking pretty good. Okay. All right, now it goes into the copper. The water's boiling. That's looking pretty good. So I've got to be careful because this water's very hot. So I'll just put it in there, and then I'm going to use
That's called a clothes stick.
the clothes stick to push it down into the water down here, and I've got to.
Give it a bit of a stir.
Oh. So this is what the washing machine does, isn't it? It stirs it back and forth.
And that's right. And so instead of a washing machine, you're the person doing all the movement.
That's right. My muscles are getting a good workout here.
So Ed, you would leave that boiling for around 20 minutes to half an hour.
Okay.
Coming back every now and then just to poke the washing back down under the water. And then when it's ready, use
Time
your
to take it out.
tongs to get the hot washing out.
So I've got some tongs here because the water's still very hot. So I'm just going to grab onto it there, and I'll just drag it out. Oh. There's hot water spraying everywhere. Now that's going to be quite warm, so I'm going to leave that there for a minute. I might put this stuff up here ready to do that. I'll do that all next. And I'll get down the bucket because I need to rinse the dress
right,
off to get all the soap and water off there. So I need some
More
water.
heavy buckets of water,
More
Ed.
heavy buckets of water.
And we would normally rinse it twice,
Okay. We might just do it once today.
squeezing it out as you go.
All right. Okay, that's pretty good. Now, that's okay. That's all right, I think. I might just... So what am I doing here?
So you're just trying to get the soap suds out.
Okay.
And then when you think it's done, you need to wring it out. So if you had a machine called a mangle, you might put it through that. But we don't have one, so you're going to have to use your muscles again, Ed, and wring that out with your hands, just
Now,
really gently.
it's become very heavy because it's got all the water all through it. So it wasn't just stirring that was hard. This is all hard.
And we need to get as much water out as possible.
Now, do I need to rinse that again?
You should really rinse
Okay.
that again.
Have to go back and start again. Oh. And I've got to be careful not to spray the water everywhere as well.
Yep, and that's why you're wearing your apron. That's to keep your clothes clean, because you can imagine now, Ed, all those clothes have to be washed. This was just one dress.
It's quite tiring. All right. I think that's looking pretty good, Anna.
Looking fantastic.
All right, so the collar's clean. Dress is looking good. All right, now we don't want to get that dirty. I'm going to grab from over here. I've got a couple of dolly pegs. These are made of wood, and if you look at them closely, they're called dolly pegs because they look like little dolls. You can see the head and the two legs and the bodies. And the kids would have played with these, wouldn't
Yeah, the mum had to keep a close eye on her pegs because they often used to be turned into little toy things.
they? Right, okay. All right, well, I think it's time to hang this one out. Shall I put the rest of the whites in to
Absolutely.
bubble away for a little while?
So you have to repeat all of that again for all the rest of the washing. So it could take you all day to get the washing done, Ed.
And it's quite hot out here as well. The sun, it's a beautiful sunny day, which is a good day for doing the washing, but it's, you know, it makes it all much harder to do. All right, let's go and hang this out. Okay, I've got our newly washed dress, Anna. I've got some pegs here. Dolly pegs. Of course, we could use a dryer today to dry the clothes, but in the past, the Hugheses would have relied on a beautiful sunny day like today. Now this should dry quite quickly. That's one dress done. How many kids were there?
There were 4 children, remember, Ed?
4 children, mum and dad. That's a lot of washing to get through on washing day.
Welcome back, everyone. Oh my goodness, there were a lot of steps to just do the washing, weren't there, Sophie?
Absolutely. It is definitely much easier today to just throw everything in the washing machine and get that done. Ed had to work pretty hard scrubbing that washing clean. Well, now that we've seen the washing happening for real in our outdoor laundry, let's go back to that painting that we saw before. Here it is again. Now, I wonder if you recognise some things in this painting that you saw in that clip at the laundry. So see if you can find the copper, the wash tub, a shelf with the washing up products, and the pile of clothes. And once you've found all those things, you can raise your digital hand. Now, you might need to chat to the person beside you if you need a bit of help finding all those things. But see how you go. Well, there's hands shooting up already. 85 hands up now, 90, 100.
You found what you need to find. Well done.
Keep searching. Lots of hands still shooting up.
Shall we give them a little hint?
Yeah, maybe we'll, you've done really, really well, but we might bring up some clues to help you spot those things. So here's some clues. The blue arrow, that's pointing towards our wash tub. The red circle is showing our copper, where the fire went to heat up the laundry. Circled in green, there's our washing up products, our soap and detergent. And circled in purple is the washing pile. So well done if you found all of those things.
Yeah, well done. And what about this? Remember, Sophie mentioned this before, and she said this is a mystery object. I don't know if any of you saw this mystery object in the video with Ed, or if you even have an idea what this is. Have a look at this poll now. What is this object? What is this poll? Have a look at this poll. Mystery object. What do you think this object is? Is it a fan? Is it something to flip pizzas? Or is it a carpet cleaner to beat the carpet? Or is it actually a fly swat? What do you think? Vote as a class. What do you think this mystery object is?
Looking forward to seeing what answers they come up with. What
it's a little bit tricky.
It's a tricky one. We didn't see it in use in the video. It was just lurking in the background. Now, I wonder what we might think it is. Now, once most people have put their answers in, we'll be able to see the result in a few moments. So let's see in just a minute. I wouldn't mind having a fan right now, Naomi. It's quite hot in here today. Nice sunny day.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, let's have a look. What did you think?
Okay.
Oh my goodness, well done. There are answers for all of them, but most of you thought it was indeed a carpet cleaner. Sophie, are they right?
Yeah, a carpet cleaner is exactly right, and it's called a carpet beater. And if we look at this next picture and small clip, you'll be able to see how it works. And you might have glimpsed this really quickly on the screen earlier. You can see a child there hitting the carpet or the rug outside with the carpet beater to get all the dust and dirt out of the carpet. So no vacuum cleaners for these people in the past. It was the carpet beater instead.
Much harder work, and I think pretty dusty, wouldn't it have been, Sophie?
Definitely why you'd need to take it outside before you started that job.
Now, we are ready to move on to our next place that we're going to, and we are going to head out of Sydney to a farm at Rouse Hill in Western Sydney. We are going to go there with Ed, and we're going to have a look what it was like to work on a farm in the past. Aren't we?
Now, I wonder if some of you might have been to a farm before. Maybe you even live on a farm or have done some farm jobs. Let's find out with a poll. Let's have a look at this next one, and you can tell us if you have either been to a farm worked on a farm, maybe
Done
done some jobs on the farm. Here it is now. Or maybe you've even ridden a horse.
That would
Do
be
we have
lovely.
any jockeys, horse riders amongst our audience today? And you can choose more than one answer here because it'll be different amongst your classes and your groups. So you can pick all the right answers that match your class in this poll, because we'd love to see how many hard-working farmhands we might have amongst us today. All right, once we have enough answers in, we'll be able to see what the answers are. All right, here they come in just a moment. Oh, I'm looking forward to this.
Oh,
Okay.
ooh, wow, so 94% of you have actually been to a farm. That's awesome.
That's a lot. And lots of horse riders amongst us
Lots
too.
of horse riders, lucky ducks.
Fantastic.
All right, well, I think it's time to actually cross to Rouse Hill to look in the past at what it was like to work on a farm. And Ed is going to be with Scott Hill, the, one of the curators out at Rouse Hill Estate. Let's go and see.
Rouse Hill Estate dates back to 1813, and it was once the home of the Rouse family, who lived in a grand house on the top of the hill surrounded by their farm and farm animals, including cows, chickens and horses. Today, tractors, motorbikes and trucks help farmers to do a lot of the heavy work that's required on a farm. But in the past, horses were very important on farms because they helped to do a lot of the heavy work, using their muscles to drive machines, or moving heavy loads from one place to another. Horses are very precious, and it takes a lot of hard work to care for just one of these beautiful animals.
But the Rouses had dozens of horses, and they used them for transport, for working around the farm, and for hunting and pleasure riding. And they cared for them greatly. And so in 1876, this well-designed stables was built for up to 8 of their horses to live in. So let's go inside and see what it's like.
There's a sturdy high ceiling to keep the horses dry and cool, a solid stone floor for them to stand on, and comfortable stalls to sleep in. A stable hand would have worked in here as well, taking really good care of them.
But being a stable hand meant getting really dusty, really dirty and really smelly. So, Scott, what can you tell us about that job? What did the stable hands have to do every single day?
Well, the very first thing is you had to get up really early, because when those horses are needed for riding, they've got to be brushed down, they've got to have their saddles on, ready to go.
Yeah.
But rather than talk about it, I thought we might just put you to work, and you're going to need this.
What have I got to do?
You're going to start by sweeping out the stables. Come on.
Oh, okay, Scott, all done.
All done.
All done.
Not quite. You've got one more job to do, and it's the stinkiest of the
Oh
lot.
dear.
You won't need this. You're going to need this.
What do I need this for, Scott?
It's time to muck out the stables. And while you deal with this, I'm off for a cup of tea.
Ah dear.
Well, that looked like really hard work and very smelly for Ed, didn't it?
Yeah, washing the clothes was one thing, but scooping up the horse poo, wow.
Oh dear. What did you think, boys and girls? What was the least pleasant job working on the farm? How about you vote in this poll now? Which job would you like the least? Have a look at this poll.
Is it polishing the saddles, sweeping the stables, or mucking out the horse stall? What do you think?
Might be an easy choice for some. I know what I wouldn't like to do.
No, I know what I'd choose as well, I think. Let's find out in just a few moments what you would rather not be doing. Let's see.
What did you think?
Let's have a look at
Boys
his
and
answers now.
girls?
Here they come. I think I can guess what it might be though.
Yes.
Yeah, just as we thought. Most of you don't want to muck out the stables. Yeah, and I have to agree, I wouldn't want to do that one either.
Well, I think it's time now to go to our final destination that we're going to, which is Vaucluse House, which is a large estate out of Sydney in the eastern suburbs. And we're going to go there and see what it was like to be a servant at Vaucluse House.
Exactly. We'll find out what it was like for servants in the 1860s. So that's over 160 years ago. Now, we know that there were lots of servants living and working out at Vaucluse, but Naomi, how do we actually know that?
Yeah, well, we actually need to have a look at some sources, some written documents or some objects that can tell us a bit about what it was like to be a servant. And we're going to start with, well, this one. Have a look at this. The blue document is a written document that tells us some really interesting things about a servant at Vaucluse House. Now, this one is actually the contract or the agreement between a young girl and the family at Vaucluse House. So what is this document? So you can see the question on the screen. It's a piece of paper, a paper document. When's it from? It's actually all the way back in 1861. And where is it kept today? It is actually at the State Archives. But it's about a particular female servant who worked in the kitchen at Vaucluse House, isn't it, Sophie?
Yeah, so a historian looking at this source would really want to know who the source was about,
Yes.
which servant. And if we look closely, we'll be able to see a name on this contract. There it is, circled in yellow. Now, if we zoom in even closer, I wonder if any of you can read that curly handwriting to see what that name is. Have a really careful look, because we'll put up a poll in just a moment to see if any of you worked out the letters that make up that name, I wonder.
Have a look at this poll. What is her name? Maybe some of the girls and boys, maybe there are some of them that actually have this name.
Maybe. So do you think that the name on that source was Mary O'Connell? Do you think it was Mary O'Donnell? Or maybe you just couldn't read it, and that's okay. Put your answer as a class, or if you're at home homeschooling, you can do your own, and let's see what you thought.
Let's have a look. What was her name? Oh, well done. Yeah, it was tricky. It was really tricky. The answers are divided, but well done all those people who said Mary O'Donnell. But it really was hard to read. I agree with the girls and boys that said that.
Yeah, that's one of the challenges for historians, reading other people's handwriting. It can be really, really challenging. Now, Mary O'Donnell, our Vaucluse House servant, she worked in the kitchen. She was washing and cooking and preparing all the food.
Yeah, now there are actually dozens of servants at Vaucluse House, so there were lots of jobs to do, and they worked very hard, and some of them were definitely smelly. But before we cross to Ed and have a look at that, I want to ask you about the jobs you do at home. Have a look at this poll. Of the technologies that we have that help us at home, which do you think is the most important new technology that helps you with jobs at home? Have a look at this poll and vote as a class. What's the most important technology that we have helping us today at home? Have a look at this poll.
Here it comes in just a moment. Bit of a lag on our screen at the moment, but it's on its way to you. Maybe you can just have a think about your jobs at home at the moment while we wait for that poll. Here it is.
So, what do you think is the most important piece of technology you have in your home today? Is it the electricity, which is very important, and it turns all your lights on as well as all your devices in the kitchen, your iPads, all the devices are turned on with electricity? Or is it the plumbing that allows you to have tapped water into the house? Or is it the gas that helps you to cook so quickly with no fires? What do you all think? Have a vote.
Yeah, maybe vote with your class to choose the answer.
And in fact, they can only choose one.
You can only choose
Can't
one this
choose
time.
them all, because we do love all those things.
I wonder what they will choose. What would you choose, Naomi?
Oh, Sophie, it's a hard choice. I think I might go for electricity. That is
okay.
really revolutionary.
I think the group agreed with you. Everyone likes their electricity.
Yeah, nearly 60% of you thought, but the other ones are really important too. Now, the servants at Vaucluse didn't have any of those. So let's cross to Ed, who's with Mel Flight, one of our curators at Vaucluse House, and see how dirty and smelly it was to work there in the past.
Vaucluse House is a 19th century mansion with surrounding gardens, and it sits just a stone's throw away from Sydney Harbour. The existing house was built in 1827, and it was the home of the Wentworth family, parents William and Sarah, and their 10 children. They enjoyed a comfortable life, and by 1830 the grounds of Vaucluse House were as large as 300 soccer fields. There were orchards for growing fruit, a kitchen garden, stables for horses, and paddocks for cattle. To keep the household and the surrounding estate running, and to make sure everyone was fed, the family had a lot of servants who worked in areas like the courtyard, where they'd be doing the washing, in the dairy, where they might be making butter, in the scullery, where they'd be washing pots and pans.
And the cooks worked here in the kitchen, where it would have been really hot because of the open flame. Now, while the servants were working hard, the Wentworths got to enjoy themselves in another part of the house. So let's go and meet Mel, who can tell us a little bit more about what that sort of life was like. So this is the dining room, and this is where the Wentworths would have eaten their meals with any of their guests. Mel, what can you tell us about what that would have been like?
Well, Ed, as you can see, it would have been quite a fancy affair. We've got a table here currently set for dessert, and you can see that it's very symmetrically laid out. Lots of plates, glasses, cutlery, bowls, candelabra. So there's a lot of things that the servants would have to bring in and out. When you were having dinner, you'd actually be eating 3 to 4 courses. So you'd start with the servants bringing in dishes like fish and soup and pies. Then everything would need to be cleared, new cutlery, new plates, new glassware for course 2. And that's where you'd have heavier things like roast beef, roast fowl, that's like ducks and chicken, more vegetables, but also sweet things like cheesecake and meringue, which is a bit weird to have with beef. And then for dessert, you'd have things like fresh fruit grown in the Wentworth's garden, maybe some jelly, biscuits, nuts and berries. So there's a lot of food to be eaten, and it took nearly 2 hours sometimes to go through all of that.
Wow, that sounds like quite a lot of food. So I'm thinking that after all of those courses, some of the guests might have needed to excuse themselves to go to the bathroom.
Ed, you're right. Would you like to see where that happened?
I think we should. And I hear that Vaucluse House has some pretty posh toilets.
They are very fancy. Let's go check them out.
All right. All right, what are we looking at, Mel?
Well, Ed, check these out.
Wow, these are some pretty posh toilets. What can you tell us about them? How do they work?
Well, to start with, Ed, you wouldn't have had 2 people in here sitting side by side. Unlike modern toilets, which have a cistern attached to them and are connected to the water supply by pipes, this was a pretty basic system, although reasonably fancy for the times. There's a hand-operated lever, which when you pull it, allows the person to open and close the toilet's hatch. The hatch would have helped keep smells away and created a bit of a barrier between the person and what's below. The room sits over an underground drain, which then flows out into a nearby creek. But without a cistern to flush the bowl, that was something that had to be done by hand. Here you go, Ed.
So we're back with the servants again. Not only did they have to work hard in the courtyard and the kitchen and serve everyone their dinner, they had to come in here and clean the toilets after they'd been used. Now, that's a job that really stinks.
Well, poor Ed, Sophie, and poor servants at Vaucluse House in the past, they actually had to flush the toilets themselves.
Yeah, I think that might have been one of Ed's worst jobs today, flushing the toilet for somebody else, really.
Yes, that's
Bit different to today, that's for sure. So we're almost at the end of the program, but we're going to do one last poll before we go, because we'd like you to think about what you thought was the worst, stinkiest and smelliest job that you saw today. So let's bring that final poll up on your screen so we can all take a vote. So if you're in a classroom, you might vote amongst your class first and then choose your answer on the poll. And let's see if you think it was the hardworking mum doing all that washing by hand. Do you think it was the busy farmhand that was working in the stables? Remember, they had to scoop up the horse poo. Or was it the servants that were serving all the food and cleaning the toilets at Vaucluse House? What do you think was the worst job today?
I wonder
what they'll think.
I do wonder what they'll pick. Lots of tricky jobs.
They're all not all like they're all pretty unpleasant, aren't they, Naomi? I wonder how to choose.
Yes, I know. The mum doing the washing wasn't stinky, but it was really hard work, wasn't it? It took all day.
It would be really tiring. You'd have very sore muscles after all that laundry. And let's see what our thoughts were.
Oh my God, they didn't like the toilets. No one wants to flush the toilets.
Yeah, I think most of us have agreed that serving the food, but probably more importantly, cleaning the toilets at Vaucluse House.
I think we agree with you.
Yeah, that was the worst job.
Now, you have asked so many wonderful questions, both before and during this event, and we do have time to answer a few of them. So, Sophie, do you want to go first? What was one of the wonderful questions you saw?
Yeah, we actually had quite a few that were emailed in from schools before the session, so we'll start with one of those, but you can type some new ones in the Q&A too. But I've got one here from St Mary's in Scone, and they would like to know if any of the jobs have stayed the same over time. And I think what we've seen today will help us to answer that question together, but I think we can say yes, some things have stayed the same, but some things have changed. So we are still washing our clothes every week or every other day to keep things nice and clean, but the technology has changed to help us do that. So it's faster and easier than it was for our poor mum at Susannah Place. But other things haven't changed so much, like sweeping the floor. We still use a broom to sweep up the dust and clear out our floors, but you also could have a vacuum cleaner instead of that carpet beater. So I think if you really think about the technology that you have, but the kind of jobs they're doing, you'll see the answer to that question yourselves. But that's a really great one to ask and to think about, thinking about how things have changed over time.
And I really like this one from St Columkille's Corrimal that they've asked live during the event. They were interested in water, and we had other questions about water. People have asked, well, if they didn't just turn on a tap and get water, where did water come from? Where did it come from? And also St Columkille's Corrimal have asked, how did you cook without water? Well, they definitely did have water in the house and to do their cooking. They did have water. They just had to go out the front door and get it. And they had some different places they could go. They could go to the well. Often there was a well dug deep underground in their street or near their house that they could drop a bucket down on a string and get some water. So they then had to carry the bucket back inside, so it was hard work. There also might have been a water carrier coming around and selling water, so you could buy it from that person. That's an option. There would have been, like today we have taps around the place outside, there would have been public water fountains that you could have used as well. And in terms of, you know, having fun with water, you know, the people at Vaucluse House could have gone swimming and swum in the harbour. It was the same as it is today, and same with the family at Susannah Place. They could have gone down to the harbour. So they could use water the same way we did. They just had to go and get it or go and find it.
And I can see a question here from, I think it's Nyangala Public School, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, and they've asked, how many jobs are there to do for the servants? Well, we only saw a small number of the jobs that the servants had to do, but they worked really, really hard. So to list a few extra ones, they were washing up the dishes, they were cleaning all the rooms in the house, dusting and sweeping, they were caring for all the animals like we did see out at Rouse Hill Estate. Some of them would have been outside doing the gardening, growing fruits and vegetables. Have I missed any, Naomi? What else were they doing?
So many jobs. I think
I probably have missed quite a few.
Lots there, Sophie.
So yeah, there's lots and lots of things servants had to do. They would have been working from sunrise to sunset every single day. And some of those jobs, as we saw, were pretty smelly and not very nice. So I'm pretty glad today that we have our machines and technology to make things a lot simpler and faster for us to do.
There's so many questions coming in, but we probably maybe only have time for one more. And I really like this one from the Kindy and Year 1 class from Hay. And Kindy and Year 1 said, hang on, how come it seems like the mums are doing all the work with the cleaning and the washing? And that's a really good observation about something that maybe has changed over time. I think in the past, in the time we were talking about, women only really had one option. They did the jobs at home. They did all the ones inside, they did the cleaning, the washing, the cooking. Women did the indoor jobs and men did the outdoor jobs, and they got the jobs outside. But of course, Sophie, today women can choose to do different jobs and men can choose to do different jobs as well. So that's something that has changed over time, attitudes to what people can do.
Yeah,
Good
absolutely.
question.
Now it's time for us to wrap up today's program. If you've really enjoyed today's session, you can find more interesting resources on our website. So you can watch all the clips from Vaucluse House, Susannah Place and Rouse Hill Estate again on our website if you're interested. You can see the link on the screen there, and it was also emailed to you with your Zoom links earlier. And you can find lots more Stage 1 resources on there as well, including more information about children's life here at Susannah Place. So those are all live on our website for you to look at right now.
Or another thing, maybe you would like to do another virtual excursion with Sydney Living Museums, and these Stage 1 history virtual excursions that are on the website, you can see our deliverer Zoe there. She can see pictures of you and you talk to each other and can interact in that way. We have 2 sessions that you could book with us for Year 1 and 2. We have Cooking Up the Past, where we talk about how food and cooking was different in the past, and we focus on Vaucluse House. And the other new one that's just come out this year is Growing Up in the Past, and that has a look at those 2 working class girls from a family that lived at Rouse Hill Estate, and it looks at what it was like growing up in the cottage and also what it was like going to school in the past. So they're both lots of fun. But for now, we've run out of time. But thank you for coming today. It's been wonderful to see you, and I hope you will be able to come again to Sydney Living Museum, either online or on site. But for today, it's time to say goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Sophie? Bye, everyone.
See you next time.